Welcome everyone to Photo101, and in this episode we're going to talk about exposure. Now I feel like most people when they talk about exposure try to make it a complex thing, and honestly I don't think exposure is that complex. Like I stated in previous episodes, that exposure, depending on your situation, is simple as changing one thing. Now with this here, most DSLRs have this, and actually some classic cameras have this too. Just as your in-camera metering. How does this work? Basically, if you look in your camera and you see this moving around, this means that it's actually metering your overall frame. Now, it can be using a spot meter or evaluation meter, meaning the spot meter is what's on the spot. Evaluation is kind of giving an overview of what's happening. Most DSLRs have that. Now, if you are in the here, that's underexposed. This is one stop underexposed, two stops, three stops underexposed. Like this is overexposed. One stop, two stops, three stops. Now, depending on your shot, this doesn't really matter. If you're overexposing a shot, but you still need to get the shot, just get the shot. This doesn't really mean anything if you're going to miss a shot. But try your best to kind of get in the ballpark. Being one stop under, one stop over is not going to kill you. Especially if you're shooting raw, you can bring it back in Lightroom. Now, with this is because if you're overexposing, you are clipping the highlights, which means it's way overblown and you won't get any detail into it. If you go way too underexposed, then you are crushing the blacks, meaning there's no detail in the blacks and you can't bring it back. So that's a good way to kind of be in this range here. But depending on the situation, you might want to be two stops underexposed or one stop or two stops overexposed. So that's what that means. Like I said in the 3 videos explaining what iOS, shutter speed, and aperture was, that's kind of the 3 main things that dictate what your exposure level is going to be. Like I stated in the other videos, depending on the situation, you're really only changing one thing. So let's go with something that most people will be dealing first off, which is dealing with continuous light, like the sunlight. Now you would mainly want to deal with your iOS because you want to set the grain. So usually, depending on how bright and dark it is, you'll set this. So let's just say 200. That's your 200. That's your ISO. You want to be there. So you want to stick to that. And we'll go to your f-stop, which say it depends is mostly for your depth of field. If you want a shallow depth of field, you want to be lower. If you want a bigger depth of field, you want to be higher number. If you want kind of in between, then that's that. So let's just say 5.6. So you want to be at 5.6. Then if you want your shutter speed, say you want to be stop motion. Let's just say 200ths of a second. There, 200ths of a second. Now, if this is still too bright, then you want to bring up your shutter speed because you don't want to touch your iOS or your f-stop because you still want that depth of field and you still want less grain. So you want to bump it up then. But if it's still too, let's say, underexposed is too dark, then you want to bring this down. Then in that case, you might, if this goes down lower than you want, then this is when you will change one of these things. Either open up your aperture or bring up your ISO for your film grain. So these, when you're dealing with that, you kind of want to be at the extreme. If you can't go any lower, then you will change this stuff. But mainly you want to change this first during continuous lighting. Now, if you're doing with strobes, it's even easier. You'll set your ISO. So let's just say with Canon, the lowest is 100, so that's very little grain at all. Now you want to set your shutter speed, which depending on what you want, let's just say you just want to kill all the available light, you'll set it at your sync speed, which is how fast your shutter can go while there's strobe going. So most Canons, high DSLRs, you can do a sync speed at 200ths of a second. So we'll just say that. Now, since we're dealing with the amount of light hitting, we're not really dealing with the speed here because, again, the flash is going off at 1,000th of a second. So changing your shutter speed is not going to make a difference. That's when you deal with your f-stop. That's when if you say, just pick a f-stop, so let's say f8, you'll be getting a lot of stuff in focus. If that's still too bright, just bring it up more. If it's too dark, bring it down. So that's very simple. Again, if you're going lower than you want to higher, say if you're still at f22, then you might want to bring down your strobe because you can control that, or bring this down lower, or yeah. So I think dealing with studio lights is even easier getting exposure because again, you're only dealing with one thing really, which is your f-stop. Now it does get confusing when you're dealing with, let's say, outdoor portraiture, where you're dealing with available light and strobe. But again, that is actually very easy to deal with too. So you'll set your ISO. So how do I decide what my shutter speed is because I still want some light in. I'll try it at 1/25th of a second, and that's usually pretty good during like midday. If that's still too dark, what I do is I set my camera to, you can set it to auto or program, or you can set it to shutter speed. So what that means is you'll set it to your sync. Let's do 1/25th of a second. That's under your sync speed, and you're still getting available light. So let's say that's setting that, and with aperture priority, it's saying that this guy is exposed at 1/25th of a second at f8. So that means that's perfectly exposed at f8. Then all you need to really do with your light is to get it to be f8 or a little brighter to make your subjects pop. Or if you want, you can actually bring it up to like f11, I think. I'm trying to remember. And then it'll be a little unexposed. Then you just brighten up your strobe, and that kicks in light. So honestly, like I said, you're only really doing one thing. You're actually changing one thing, and changing anything out of that one thing is when it's to the extreme. Like with ISO, if you're doing let's say a concert, you're dealing with continuous light during a concert, but it's still bright. So you still want to be tack sharp. So let's say you're shooting at 1/1000th of a second. So you need to be at 1/1000th of a second to get that tack sharpness. And you're shooting at f2, so you want the great depth of field. So you want, let's say, 2.8. Then you set it at 800th of a ISO at 800, and it's still too dark. But you don't want to touch your shutter speed. You can bring it down, but you'll lose your sharpness. You can't really bring that down unless you have 1.8. Then you would do that. But then, in that case, I would scrap the 800 and move up to 1600. That's not much, 6400. Then that's when you change your ISO. So, like I said, exposure is not that hard, but yet it can get confusing. Just practice with it. Go out. Be in aperture priority. Be in shutter priority. Depending on what the light is, that's to kind of get an idea of what it is. And just play with the camera, especially shooting digital. Then you just play with it. I hope this helped explain exposure a little bit better. I know it's probably not the best way for me to explain it. I've been doing this for so long, it just kind of second nature to me to do it. And for me explaining it, it's a little hard. So if you have any questions at all about exposure or iOS or shutter speed or the correlation with that adapter, please comment down below. And if it's a lot of questions, I will make another video about this and help explain and address some of the questions you guys have. So please, if you have any questions at all, comment down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video about exposure and hope this helped you along understanding exposure just a little bit better, that you don't have to make it so complicated. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button down below. Also, you can follow me on my Twitter and Instagram page where I post everything there. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.